Today is the Sunday of Orthodoxy, the first Sunday of Great Lent. Year after year after year, you know how old you are. Think back, how many times have you come to the Sunday of Orthodoxy? How many times have we celebrated the triumph of icons in the church? We know maybe a little bit of the history. We come to celebrate, but do we come to celebrate it as a historical event? Or do we come to celebrate it as an opportunity for us to examine ourselves, see where we are in our spiritual growth, and then rededicate ourselves by re-examining ourselves against the saints of the church? Sunday of Orthodoxy is not a time to be triumphant. There are sermons after sermons after sermons that I have heard by bishops, priests, even from the Patriarch, about how dangerous it is to come on the Sunday of Orthodoxy and to feel puffed up, to say to yourself, look at us as Orthodox Christians, we have maintained the faith of the church, and look at all those other churches, the Baptists, the Protestants, the Evangelicals, look at them. We are so superior to them. This would be such a dangerous spiritual position and posture. Our posture as Orthodox should always be one of humility, one of service, one of humbleness before other people, not judging them, but helping them as much as we can. And oftentimes you will find, as St. Basil himself said, he said the Holy Spirit is like a bumblebee that moves around and goes to the flowers where there is honey. And the Holy Spirit cannot be controlled by us. It goes where it wants. And even St. Basil said that the theology of the spermatikos logos, great theological principle of the church, is that the Holy Spirit goes to other people in other faiths, not just the Orthodox Church. So we have to be very careful not to think as though we control what the Holy Spirit does. What we can control is how we allow the Holy Spirit, the bee, to come and find the honey in our hearts. So let us be very careful on this day of Orthodoxy. Yes, it is a triumphant day in which the iconoclasts, those who were against icons, were put to the side by the iconodules, those who were dhuli of icons. They were servants of the icons. And you know the history, I don't have to repeat it for you, but it was we were in danger of not having icons in the church because of the Old Testament, one of the commandments that says that you shall not have any idols. So the church was fighting with the issue, is an icon an idol? Are vestments idolatrous? Are the lipsana, the relics of the saints, are they okay to be venerated? Or should we not respect them? There was a bad heresy in the early church that said that everything of this world was evil. So we should shun this evil. And it permeated the church for a long period of time. People began to flag themselves, flagellation, hurt their bodies, cut their bodies, as if the body was evil in itself, because Adam and Eve were thrown out of the Garden of Eden. The earth was cursed. And so the theology was correct. The world was sinful, so therefore we have to shun the world. However, when Jesus Christ was born, he transformed creation. This is the essence of the Epiphany service. The Epiphany service, when we throw the water, we cast the water, and we sing, what we are saying is that creation has been renewed, has been reborn by Jesus Christ. It is no longer evil. Why? Because Jesus himself entered in and restored humanity. And that is the theology that allows icons in the church. That's the theology. If Jesus did not become a human being, then icons would be idolatrous. So when we see Jesus, we see the restored human being. We see the restored creation that St. Paul talks about. Hence, icons in the church, vestments in the church, relics in the church that I will talk about. Because all of these things are part of the Synodikon, not just icons. And if we just stay at the top, if we only stay at the very peripheral, the frosting, instead of going deep into what it really means for the Sunday of Orthodoxy, we have not done our job. We come to Orthodoxy, with all due respect to the children, as children. And we're not as mature adults who understand the depth of this day. As I said to the children, on the peripheral, on the top, we have icons. And I was very impressed the first time I walked into your church and saw such beautiful icons. Magnificent iconostation. Icons in the back, in the altar that many of them you don't see. Beautiful. I said, bravo, nice, beautiful icons. But we need to understand what is the purpose of the icon, why they are there. So I told the children about the 4 primary icons in the iconostasio. Jesus, Mary, St. John the Baptist, and then the name of the church. But there is a 5th icon. One might ask, what are the 5 most important icons in the church? And you would be right if you said Jesus, Panagia, John the Baptist, the name of the church. But what's the 5th icon? Does anybody know? The 5th most important icon in the church. This is something of a trick question. You. We. We are the icon. Ikon Theu. We are in the image and likeness of God. His finger, we are told by the saints of the church, his finger painted us, drew us, created us in his image. The problem is we have distorted the icon. We are not, when people see us, they don't see Jesus, they see a broken person, a distorted person, an evil person, a selfish person, not a humble person. I'm talking about myself. They don't see the restored person the way we should be in front of God. And that's why Jesus came. And that's the essence of the Sunday of Orthodoxy. We come here and we bring the icons around the church to signify, as we carry the icons, that we are to look like the icons. We are to become saints, i.e., as St. Paul says. We are all saints in the church, but we have fallen short. And so we carry the icons around to signify what we hope to become like. As a matter of fact, in the Synodikon of why we have icons, it says there that when we venerate an icon, when we venerate, let's say, the icon of St. George or St. Theodore, the veneration goes through the saint, and it says the word to the prototypos, the prototype. What does that mean? In other words, every time we kiss an icon of St. George, or St. Theodore, St. George, whoever we kiss, we are actually kissing Jesus. We are actually kissing Christ. It is Christ that was exemplified in the life of the saint, and that's why we kiss it. That's why we venerate it. That's what a saint is. St. Paul himself said that. I no longer live, he says, but Christ lives in me. I have become Christ. That's the reason why the priest wears the vestments, to signify what we hope to become, the transfigured person, the person who reflects Christ. So when you see the priest, or when you see other people, we somehow point away from ourselves and we point to God. It's interesting, it doesn't happen all the time, but just this year, the last 3 days, we celebrate the 4 icons that I'm talking about. Friday night, we focused on the Panagia, Agapesis. Yesterday, who did we focus on? We focused on John the Baptist. And those of you who know, the 29th of August is the beheading of St. John the Baptist. But yesterday is the feast day of the discovery of his head. And we celebrate that. As a matter of fact, it was discovered 2 times. Now what I want to show you is on the icon of St. John the Baptist, there's something very significant in every icon of St. John the Baptist. Always. His finger. We are drawn to his head. But it's not just what he said. It's to whom and about whom did he say. Look at the icon. His finger always points up. If Jesus is not in the icon, St. John the Baptist in every icon will point like this. Usually his blessing with one finger up, like this. If Jesus is in the picture with him, in the icon with him, he goes like this. He points to him. Why? Because St. John's job, St. John's life, was to be the prodromos, to be the forerunner, to go and to point to Jesus. And when the disciples came to St. John the Baptist, who they were following, and said, "Is this the one that you've been talking about?" "Go," he says. He pointed to Jesus. "I must decrease, he must increase." That's our life. It's interesting to me and beautiful. The theology is spectacular. That what do we as priests do to icons in the church? We come out with the thimiato, don't we? We come out with the incense burner. We go in front of the icons, and we three times in front of the icons. We are signifying that they have an aroma. The saints, St. Paul says, have an aroma of Christ. When these people were in the company of other people, there was something different about them. And St. Paul says they had the fragrance of Christ in their life. So we take a fragrant incense and we shake it in front of the icons to remind us that they have the aroma of Christ. But what's more important is that after we've done the icons, what do we do with the thimiato? I go to you and I shake the thimiato in front of you. And the right thing to do is not to do your cross. I know many people do that. They think that when the priest comes with the thimiato, you do your cross. No, what you do is you bow in humility, saying, "May I become such a beautiful aroma." You are accepting the aroma as a responsibility. I don't know if you've ever been to Mount Athos or to monasteries, and you spend time outside of the church with a monk or a nun. They smell, they have an aroma, they have the fragrance of incense all over their bodies. Because for years and years and years for many of them, they've been receiving the incense of the priest. Receive it. They don't do the cross. Receive it. Take it. Because we want to become it. That's the Sunday of Orthodoxy. We come with the icons, and the priest will shake it in front of us in a little while. Our job is to say, how well am I doing? Am I like St. John the Baptist, pointing to Jesus with my mouth and with my finger? Do you know, to open up a parenthesis, if you read the Synexarion of yesterday, great feast day of the church, finding of the head. Do you know why they cut his head off? Why she wanted his head? Because she was tired of listening to his mouth, his voice. Because he kept saying what they did wrong. You know that Herod married Herodias, his brother's wife. Something very bad to do. And so St. John the Baptist was saying, you can't do that. That's wrong. I don't care if you're the emperor or not. And she didn't like it. As a matter of fact, many people say, historians say, that Herod put St. John in prison to protect him. Because if he was walking around on his own, Herodias may have paid some people to kill him. So he puts him in prison to protect him, but unfortunately Herodias had Salome, her daughter, dance for him at his birthday, and he was caught up in lust over his daughter-in-law, and said to her, whatever you want I will give you. Goes to the mother, and what did the mother say? I want the head, ask for the head of John the Baptist on a platter. And he did it. She thought the voice was cut. No more, I don't have to worry about it anymore. Do you know that she, even with the head cut, she was so terrified of that head and that mouth and that voice, she took the head and she buried it secretly somewhere. The wife buried it secretly someplace. And the body that was cut, many of the disciples of his took the body, and because it was creating miracles, she found the body again, or pieces of the body, and had it burned and scattered the ashes. And those who were burning and scattering the ashes, many of the followers of St. John the Baptist paid ransoms for pieces of his body, and that's why we have pieces of his body now. She wanted to destroy it completely, to cast it into the air, the burned body of St. John the Baptist. But something happened. According to history now, of the Eusebian history, who was a secular historian, said that they couldn't burn his finger. And that's why in the relics of the church, the head of St. John the Baptist and the finger still exists, and it is kept with great solemnity, because it was this finger that pointed people to Jesus Christ. Are we such a finger? When the world, society, looks at the Orthodox Church, do they say, now there is a church that points to Jesus Christ? Or do we point to other things? Only you can answer that question. When people say the Orthodox Church, what do they think about us? They say, that's the church that points to Souvlakia and Baklavadis and Greek dancing and Bouzoukia. Or do they say, oh yes, they are a ethnic church, beautiful ethnic church, but you know what? They point to Jesus Christ. We can have both. It's not an either or. ¿Qué tal digo? We can be who we are, but at the same time, point. Don't point to other people. Don't point and blame others. If the Orthodox Church was to disappear, if this church, this community was to disappear from North Miami, would people in the area notice a difference because we were gone? If they wouldn't notice that we were gone, then you know what? We're not pointing. We're not doing our job. We're not doing our job. Let me end my homily. I'm sorry for keeping you, but again, I take it as a great responsibility. How did they find his head? When she took it to bury it, to defame it, she was followed. And she was followed by a young woman who was the wife of one of the caretakers in the palace of Herod. And by the way, Herod's father was the one who killed all the children when Jesus was born. This is his son who married his brother's wife. So we're not talking about a family here that is of good standing. But there was a man and his wife followed Herodias as she went to bury the head in a dump. She saw where it was. She took it secretly, put it in a jar, and protected it. It was lost for many years, until the 4th century. 2 monks had a dream to go to a cave, and in that cave they found a jar, not like the jars we have now, it wasn't a glass jar, but a jar, and she found, or they found, the 2 monks found the head of St. John the Baptist that had been protected by the young woman who went and took it out. Because originally, and it's the reason why we celebrate 2 findings, is that she took it and she went and hid it, and she buried it on the Mount of Olives. On the Mount of Olives. And then it was found once, brought to a cave, and then it was found again by the 2 monks, and that's how it found its way finally back into the church, because of the miracles associated with the head. But I wonder if you know who that girl was. Saint Joanna. Saint Joanna, who we celebrate in the church, is one of the myrrh-bearing women. She was one of the ones that went to the tomb to anoint Jesus after he died and saw that he was resurrected. So we see in the Bible where it says, and Joanna was with one of the women that was with them. This is the Joanna that was living in the Herod's kingdom, that went and took the head of St. John the Baptist, and we have it in the church because of her. And if you read the Synecdoche of her feast day, you will see there the story of over the years, over the centuries, how the church has honored the work that she did, because she never wanted to stop. St. John Chrysostom says, with this I finish, that the devil fears, is terrified more over those who have lost their heads as martyrs for the faith than those who still have a mouth and are still alive. He doesn't like it, because those who are willing to give their head for Jesus Christ, Satan is terrified of the power of those kinds of people that are willing to sacrifice on behalf of the Lord. May we be such people. They are called, by the way, kephalophori, those who carry their head. You see them in the icons. There's a whole group of saints who carry their heads. Cephalophori in the English. The Catholic Church has them as well. We honor them. So as we come around the church with the icons, let us reflect on ourselves, let us receive the aroma, and let us learn to point to Jesus Christ and not to anyone else. Please rise.